Welcome back, everybody, to Pick and Roll, powered by the Hammer Betting Network. We had a day off yesterday because the NBA itself had a day off, but they're back for another loaded slate today with 13 games, and we're here to discuss a couple of things about the NBA, some trending topics, and of course, go into Pips' best bets for today. I am your host, Jacob Gramegna. You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Gramegna for basketball discussion, and also on YouTube for discussion surrounding Toronto Raptors, my channel, Amateur Sports. This is Pips NBA. As I said, follow him there for maybe some more additional picks beyond this show. And on this show, on Monday, with that loaded slate, if you follow Pips on Twitter, you saw that he had a great day personally, but also on this show, the picks go 3-1. So that is great, but we want to continue pushing forward with some more today. But before we get into those picks, a couple of things we wanted to talk about. Firstly, I really wanted to discuss the Utah Jazz. They are, I believe, now 9-3. Yes, 9-3. They are the top seed by a full game in the Western Conference. A team that has just been thrown together by trades with no real thought process into their fit. They just keep winning right now. Pips, is this pace? Well, definitely not sustainable at this pace. Is this a playoff team in Utah?
Yeah, I don't know if they're a playoff team, but currently they are playing amazing. Yeah, as we already said on one show, I'm very surprised that guys like Clarkson, Beasley, like Taylor Horton Tucker, and all these high usage players who I never even thought they could be working in some great teams together, and they are just crushing it. But the biggest reason is probably Lauri Markkanen, who is playing just amazing.
Yeah.
He's currently, I think, in top three for most improved players. But the thing I like the most about them is their coaching. Whenever I watch a game, I know the other team has some weakness, and they will just exploit it and over and over and over and over again, just going attacking their weakness, and that's why I think that's the reason they are winning.
And it's crazy. I believe it's Will Hardy, rookie head coach for the Jazz, who's doing all these things. And I just think it's a lot of players who personally feel like they have something to prove. You know, Markkanen, relatively discarded by the Bulls and the Cavs. Less so the Cavs. Taylor Horton Tucker, a guy who's playing decently well, completely overlooked and discarded by the Los Angeles Lakers, and a whole host of other players who are just fighting for themselves here. And look, they're playing fun basketball. They're playing with nothing to lose. I'm still not sold on this being a playoff team. They're 9-3. I get that, but like the Spurs were 5-2 last week. They're now 5-6. So things can fall off the rails relatively quick. So I'm not convinced. But Lauri Markkanen, he's just looked so good this season, and happy for him because there was some potential out of his rookie season in Chicago that maybe wasn't fulfilled, but he's just balling right now, and it's super fun to watch. Another thing you wanted to discuss, and this was on Monday's show, you talked about the Clippers as your most disappointing team. They got a big win against the Cavaliers. They were down by 13 with less than 5 minutes to go. The Cavs, who had won 8 games in a row, ended up winning. I didn't catch this one, but I'm sure you did. What the hell happened to the Cavaliers there?
Yeah, the ending was so amazing to watch. Like this was probably the worst 4 minutes of basketball by Darius Garland I have ever seen. It's poor decision after poor decision, and the interesting thing is, cause like the experience was the problem. They were not every possession, every offensive possession. They were just trying to waste time, not playing great basketball or trying to get the best shot. They were just trying to waste as much time as they can. And the Clippers were in the bonus, and after some misses, they made a couple of not so smart fouls on offensive rebound and stuff, and they just stopped the clock and let Clippers get back into the game. But it was a very interesting one for sure.
Big win for the Clippers. They moved to above 500. The Cavs, who have started extremely well, they lost the Raps on opening day, and they won 8 games in a row, as I mentioned, just that blemish against the Clippers. But the Cavs are 8-2, and I think they're more than happy with that. And they could be an interesting team. So going through the season, still plenty of action to go in the season, and plenty of action on the slate for tonight. before we get into that slate, I want to remind you guys that you can watch this show live at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitter at The Board NBA, also on Twitter at The Hammer HQ. You can also catch us on YouTube on The Board NBA YouTube channel, as well as on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Board NBA. Wherever you're watching, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. Also consider dropping a like there, and you can follow us on Twitch to stay up to date with all of this content. We'll touch a little bit as well. We had a really good Monday, 3-1 on the official picks. We have 3 more for you guys today, and the first one we're going to go to are those Spurs who have lost 4 in a row after starting 5-2, playing against the Memphis Grizzlies. What is the play for this one?
So we have a same game parlay, and the first part is Ja Morant to score over 24.5 points, and the second part is Devin Vassell over 14.5 points, which is minus 108 at FanDuel. I think this is a great spot for both of these guys. Crazy quick pace, not great defense. I mean, both of these teams are ranked at bottom 5 defense, and we could see one of the highest paced games of the season here. And yeah, Ja Morant is coming after a loss to the Boston, where he played. He faced one of the best defensive teams in the league, and yet he managed to score 30 points. They were like clogging him down. He missed some easy shots and still scored 30 points. And the last season against the Spurs, he scored 30, 41, and 52. And they had DeJounte Murray and Derrick White, like 2 of their best defensive guards, are gone. And they now have worse defense and playing at a higher pace. So this is really an excellent spot for Ja Morant. And Vassell, he after very poor opening night shooting, he covered this line in every game after that, and he covered this line even coming off the bench and playing 25 minutes. And he's now cleared to play full minutes, and I think he's going to score probably over 20 points in this game.
So the Spurs definitely, I get their 5-6, but definitely a definitive lack of talent for this team. What they play with is just a freeness, no expectations, and it's a lot of guys who are just trying to, I guess, not really prove anything, but a lot of players who maybe want to earn spots on different teams, earn bigger roles in the future of their careers, a lot of young players, and they play super fast. Like you said, the Grizzlies do as well. This is going to be an offensive game, I think, a bit of a shootout. So a couple overs here makes complete sense to me. So let's move into the second one that we have here. We have the Trailblazers visiting the Hornets, and the Blazers got out to a blazing start to the season. They are 7-3 right now. Big part of that is their point guard superstar, Damian Lillard, and you like him as well tonight.
Yeah. So the bet is Damian Lillard over 23.5 points at minus 110 at BetMGM. And I was pretty amazed when I saw this line. I expected like 25.5 or maybe even 26.5. And the reason for this is he's coming into this game after 2 games against the Miami Heat. And Miami Heat is probably the point guard nightmare in this league. Like, they have the best point guard defense last 5 years, I think. Or they are at least top 3. So yeah, they are coming into this game. He started the season poor. He had scored 20 points against the Kings while shooting 5 from 18, and still managed to score 20 points. And then he just started scoring 41, 41, 31. And then he had a game against the Miami, scored 22 points in 25 minutes in a blowout. So he was close to covering this against the best defense in a blowout. So having this at 23.5 versus poor Charlotte Hornets defense, and they are really struggling defending off-ball scorers. Like, he's playing more off-ball this season. They're trying to get him through Hart and Nurkic and to shoot threes coming in from the corners. And as I watched Hornets this season, they're probably the worst team at defending it, and this is just a great spot for Damian.
This just seems like way too low for Lillard, a player who is averaging 29 points this season, who has looked like pretty impressive. Word to the wise, 23.5 at minus 110, that's not going to be up for very long, I don't
Yeah.
think. So this is pretty timely if you're looking to tail the show. This, I think, is a really, really good number. So love that one. Let's go into the third one. The Pelicans against the Bulls. Two teams that, in my opinion, it's really tough to gauge what they are. The Bulls are 6-6. The Pelicans are 5-5. I mean, they're kind of on a knife edge to me. You don't know if they're going to ascend into great teams or fall back into not so great teams. So let's hear your thoughts, maybe a little bit before we go into pick, your thoughts on both these teams. We have some time, and also we'll get into the pick right after.
I don't think they will go either way. I think they'll just stay in that zone, like
Right.
winning 44 to 42 games this season and end up in like top playing spot, seventh place or six to eight place in West and East. Yeah, that's where I see it. And one of the reasons, I mean, both teams have some injuries. Lavin is missed a couple of games for Bulls. Ingram missed a couple of games for Pelicans. And I think when they are healthy, they will be above point 500. But yeah, that's the league is just very competitive. There are a lot of good, great teams, and we just saw Pelicans lose to the Pacers. I mean, Pacers
Mm-hmm.
were projected to be a tanking team, winning 25 games in the season, and they started great. Utah Jazz started great. A lot of these teams who were projected to be terrible are playing way above expectations and taking wins from Pelicans and Bulls, and I think we'll see that for the entire of the season.
Makes sense. So the pick in question, one of the players involved here is DeMar DeRozan, who just played back-to-back games against the Raptors. Two weird ones where he really doesn't shoot the ball like at all in either of these games. In the first one in particular, he took 9 shots. He did get 20 points, which it will be a good number in just a second. You'll find out. The recent game just kind of left it all to Zach LaVine, who torched the Raptors. You have DeRozan. You think he's gonna be a little bit better tonight. So here's the pick in question. Why don't you go through it?
Yeah, so my pick for this game is same game parlay, both Ingram and DeRozan over 19.5 points, combined for minus 115 at BetMGM. So first off, I've started with Ingram. He he's playing amazing this season. He's on a 23 points average a game, and he scored 28, 28 in two opening games, and then had an injury. Came back, scored 26 again, and then had one of the worst shooting nights of his career against the Hawks. I think he was like 7 for 25 from the floor and still scored 16 points. The Andre Hunter just played amazing defense on him. And then the game against the Pacers, where he scored 29 points. So he's like 26 to 30 points a game range for most of the games. And he's shooting a ton, 23 and 24 field goal attempts in the last two. And if he shoots that many tonight, he'll cover 20 points, even if with below average shooting night. And Patrick Williams will be on Zion Williamson, and they will clock the paint for defending Zion. And I don't see who can guard Ingram. DeRozan probably, and DeRozan is one of the worst defensive players in
Yeah.
the league. So yeah.
Yes.
And the second part of this is DeMar DeRozan. I think we have this. His regular line is at 23.5, which is I think way below what it should be. I mean, the book is overreacted to the two games against the Toronto Raptors, and we saw why. Like he was double team, triple team, blitz, trapped, and
It was
stuff.
actually
Yeah,
insanity. The Raptors'
yeah,
defense on him was insanity.
yeah, and he's well known as a poor back-to-back player. Like last two back-to-back games, he had 9 points and 9 points, two times 9 points in back-to-back games. So I think he's just in the back-to-back games, he just step back and let other guys do stuff. But tonight in this matchup, I think he'll just, especially when Jonas is on the floor, he'll be in the deep down, and Jamar will just torture them from the mid range. And I think he will get to the line a lot because Pelicans are fouling a lot. So yeah, I think we covered this. I don't see a game where Bull scores to 120 points and DeMar doesn't score 20.
Right.
Yeah.
And on those back-to-back notes, especially for the most recent game, which I think is undervaluing DeMar DeRozan a little bit,
Yeah.
Zach LaVine rested the first night of the back-to-back against the Raptors and played the second one, and he was very high usage and was playing really well. So, I mean, the Bulls won rather comfortably in the end against the Raptors. So a lot of it was just DeRozan just letting LaVine do his thing because he was playing well. I think that we're finding a little bit of the books taken down in the numbers. So I like the spot there, and I'm a fan of all three picks here. So we went 3-1 on Monday. Let's try to go 3-0 today if we can, but let's hope for a winning day at all. The Grizzlies at the Spurs for the first pick. John Morant over 24.5 points and Vassell over 14.5 points on the same game parlay. You can get that for -108 at FanDuel. Second pick on the slate. Blazers at Hornets. Damian Lillard over 23.5 points, and I'm personally also going to very much endorse this number because I think it's too low. And then the third one, Pelicans at Bulls, same game parlay. We just talked about it. Ingram over 19.5, DeRozan over 19.5. That is for -115 at BetMGM. But that has been your show. This is Pick and Roll. Every single weekday, well, as long as there are NBA games to talk about, unlike yesterday. Every single weekday, myself, Jacob, will be hosting Pips to hear his best NBA bets and also to discuss various basketball-related matters. For more from us, the creators, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Gramegna, and you can check out my YouTube channel, Amateur Sports, for Raptors discussion and analysis. You can follow Pips on Twitter because sometimes he'd like to give out a few extra plays during the day. We can find even more from himself. And also, check out the Hammer Betting Network for more sports betting content across sports. Follow us wherever you're watching or subscribe there. If you want to watch later in the day, you can always do so on the main platforms where it goes live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And even you could go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts 30 to 60 minutes after the live ends. We will see you tomorrow for more NBA discussion and bets. Thank you, everybody.